Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Joe on Joe. It is me, your host, Joe Slepsky, and I'm a little hoarse this week, so I apologize for this little raspy intro. However, I really welcome you all to the show, whether it's your first time or your last time. Welcome. This is the podcast where I've covered every episode of G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, the cartoon. We've covered the DIC cartoon. We've covered Extreme. And we've also gone over all of the issues of the Marvel Real American Hero comic book, page by page, panel by panel. And this week, we got a real special episode. We're going back to the You on Joe well. And You on Joe is where you, the listener, are the guest. Whatever your favorite thing about G.I. Joe is. It could be a character. Could be a vehicle, could be an episode of the show, or an issue of the comic, whatever it is, you're the guest on the show. And it's real easy to do. I'm really excited about doing it. So if you want to be a guest on this show and be participating in You on Joe, just reach out to me on social media at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Joe on Joe Pod. You could send me an email to joeonjoepod@gmail.com and just talk to me. Let me know what you want to do. And that's exactly what our guest today, Rich Borges, did. And while you're online, you can please give me a rating and review on whatever your podcast app is. That always helps elevate the show and get more listeners. You can visit our Patreon page, patreon.com/JoeOnJoePod, and help support the show in that direction. And you can also give our sponsors, the Movies in a Meal podcast, a good listen because they're fabulous and they deserve it.
In the beginning of time, the smallest organism gained sentience and thought to itself, I really need a good meal. Then, a bunch of other stuff happened, and finally the Lumiere brothers started showing movies in France. This was all the inspiration that fellow broadcasters Brad, Keith, and Ben needed to combine these two primal needs into the Movies in a Meal podcast. The Movies in a Meal is one of the most casual and relaxing film talk podcasts you could ever listen to. These three friends enjoy a good meal together while talking all about the movies. And not just reviews, they do favorite lists, comparison discussions, genre talks, anything and everything that you can think of. They've even broken their solemn promise inherent in the name and branched out into TV talk. So I love the variety of films they bring to the table. They cover new releases, classics, cult films, often in one episode. It's really a delight to listen to, and it has something for every movie fan out there to enjoy. So if you're looking to grow your podcast library, if you eat meals, and if you've ever seen a movie, then you should give Ben, Keith, and Brad a listen and subscribe to the Movies in a Meal podcast. They've been a great sponsor to this show. I love the Movies in a Meal podcast, and I'd like all of you to love them too.
So like I said, this week is a quintessential example of what You and Joe is all about. Today's guest, Rich Borges, he reached out on social media and was like, hey, Joe, I love myself some Anthony Gambello, and I want to talk about The Flash. That was it. That's all it took. I really enjoyed this conversation with a new friend of the show, Rich Borges, who you can find on Instagram at XRBorges, Borges, X. That's on Instagram. Real nice guy. And we just had a lot of laughs talking about a absolutely criminally underused member of the original 13 Joes. So I really know you're all going to love this talk. Put on your bright red catcher's gear, plug your laser into your backpack, and enjoy this conversation with Rich Borges talking about The Flash.
Yeah, man, it's just you and me talking Flash, who there's not much to talk about The Flash.
No,
The Flash.
I mean,
Flash.
I'm sure we'll get into it, but it's just that memory of playing on my floor, yeah, he get very little love in the shows, very little love in the comics. I mean, Devil's Due killed him.
Yeah. Well, he's got, so from the original OG 13, he's got one of the better, that hockey
The
pad.
standout.
Yeah, the hockey,
Yeah.
right. He's a standout look of a character. He absolutely is.
Mm-hmm.
I never had him, though. I never had Flash as a kid. But he was ignored on the show.
Well, if
minimal.
you give everybody on the team a laser gun, the laser rifle trooper isn't nearly as important.
Exactly. Exactly. And the cartoon, being a laser rifle trooper means nothing. It's kind of like with Ace,
Yeah.
how Ace was really put aside because everyone
Yeah.
flew, we were lucky that
Everybody can fly a
yeah,
jet.
we were lucky that Wild Bill was so Wild Bill because
Yeah.
then he was a character more than a helicopter pilot.
Right. Exactly. They could throw all those Southern cliches
Yes.
at us.
Yes.
Yep.
Good old, yeah, absolutely.
hmm
In Flash was just never, he
Wait,
was
and
doomed,
then
he was doomed from the
because
start. And then his name is literally a DC Comics
superhero.
trademark.
Yep.
So
So that's and I'm going to be honest with you. I to this day hate the character of Sci-Fi because he replaced
because he
my
replaced
boy.
Flash, yeah.
Yeah. And I know Sci-Fi was all over the not very great video game Operation Blackout.
Oh,
Blackout.
the newest one, yeah.
Yeah. And Sci-Fi is in there, and they are actually talking about throwing Sci-Fi into the classified series early on
Yeah.
in the line, saying Sci-Fi. And I'm like, no, you're ignoring my favorite.
I mean, I had Sci-Fi, but I have Flash now, but I had Sci-Fi long before I had Flash. So I liked Sci-Fi, but even then, so he was made redundant by two people, because not only is he the laser trooper, but he also works as a sniper. So then you get Lowlight, who makes him doubly redundant.
Yep.
Between his copyrighted name, his quick redundancy.
Yep.
Now, from what I was able to look at, find online, is the DC Superpowers line is what made his name unusable in the toys. So that's why we never really got another Flash until you get to there's a 2005 Anthony quote. They called him Anthony quote Flash Gambello, and then you get Sergeant Flash in 2007. So you go 22 years of them going, how do we do a Flash?
Right? And the Rise of Cobra one, and he looks like a flamethrower.
Well, that's 2009, and that that is. You're right, and that is Anthony Flash Gambello, and that is he looks like a flamethrower guy. He looks like a bomb specialist. He it's funny, that's not my, like, when we've done these shows, that's when I've really looked at those years of toys. I wasn't really into those, and I do keep seeing so many designs, and this is 100% one of them, where I feel like the design came first, and then they said, who can we put a name on? So much of the early line feels organic for the most part. I think you get into some of the Vipers. I think that gets a little dodgy of, okay, look first, then they go, well, let's call him a Viper. When he really should have been just a named person. But with this that era of the Rise of Cobra stuff, what did we just talked about? Rakondo. There's a bald Rakondo. I'm like, that's not. Why would you? What? And then and I think Flash falls into that too. This 2009 Flash where he's not Flash. So going back to the original, when did you have Flash right away? Like, was that one of your first figures? What was that?
Yeah, he was definitely one of my first figures. I was all in on that first 82 wave for sure. And Flash was one of them. I remember, prone in my parents' living room, playing with Flash. And he had a laser, and he stood out because he had that big orange chest plate or whatever. I don't even know what it's supposed to be. Like,
for me, it always looked like a baseball catcher's gear.
Yeah, catcher's.
When I was a kid, it was always catcher's gear. But on a figure that
I love the flip down visor.
Yeah, man,
everything about it.
On a figure that size, there's not a lot of room to, there's not a lot of room to do, like, when you're doing similar molds, there's not a lot of room for personality, right? In those early ones where they were all similar molds. And this one they really did a good job with this,
He's really, it says I'm part of the team, but I'm my own dude. The red pops, or orange, red, whatever that is, pops. The silver really works well. He didn't have that Michael Ironside looking grunt head.
Yep. No, he was a good looking dude.
Handsome, right? He was a handsome Italian man. It worked.
And truth be told, I felt like the figure looked like me as a child too, which also probably factors in. You know,
sure.
Brown haired white guy. That it was me.
Yeah, I felt that way about Dr. Mindbender. Well, you also have, and this has to be literally the first because it is part of the first line. You had a gun that connected to the backpack. I can't tell you how much that is fascinating to a young kid. Would you agree?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That whole setup there. He, just a great figure, and yeah, he couldn't lose his gun. It was sticking to his backpack.
Awesome. It's funny. I have never considered it a power pack, but it's makes sense that it's a power pack. I just never called it that until you look on yojo.com and you see that, oh yeah, they call it a power pack. But yeah, anything that you would attach to the characters, Blowtorch counts as that. The eels with the face mask, little thing, the rebreather thing, all that. Anytime you get that stuff into play, it's so much more fascinating. So right out of the gate, you get a dude with a laser that connects to his backpack. You're in.
Yeah, no, he has like 2 or 3 standout moments in the very early comics.
Yes.
I think he dips out after, looking at him now, probably 7. Like, you don't really see him a whole lot. I grabbed a space shuttle, the 65 there, thinking he was in it because, they went into space and he's a science officer as well, right?
Yeah.
Technologies. And no, he's not there.
No.
I'm just trying to fill in blanks where there's none. No, there's not a whole lot.
No, he's really, he's Larry did a good job early on of trying to kind of showcase / find the personalities of everybody. And Flash did not. Anthony Gambello did not rise to the top. You could say Clutch certainly did, and then he eventually faded out. Breaker got a lot of love early on. Flash had that cool moment though, which taught me
he's got it.
Yeah,
he cuts through that pipe to get to the.
And he trims off the sliver of conduit or covering to get to the
power
wires,
cables, right?
to the wires beneath it
on Cobra Island.
Yeah, and again, as a kid who was trying to learn about stuff, I was like, "Oh my god, that's how wires work." What? Like, it's not just a piece of plastic. There's metal underneath there. What? I used to take apart. Electronic toys that I had, not G.I. Joes, but like if I had a toy that I had for a little while, like I remember specifically I had a Star Wars clock, and I really loved it, and I was so curious about how it worked and stuff. So I would just take all the screws and do it the right way, like with screws and pieces and all that stuff, and never was able to put them back together properly. But I was always curious about it. So seeing Flash do that in the comic, I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then years later, you see that they have heat guns that do that with wires, and just a little heat gun that melts it away. I always flash back to that moment in G.I. Joe to this day. I flash back to that.
He has another cutting through something moment in the Trojan Gambit, where the Cobra robot's running amok in the pit, and him, Stalker, and Snake Eyes are stuck in, I want to say the armory, but don't quote me on that. And he has to help cut through the door, but because there's limited oxygen in there, he has to do it slowly. So I think Snake Eyes meditates and reduces his heart rate, because Snake Eyes is Snake Eyes. Yeah.
That's one of the all-time great issues of all time. Like it's Trojan Gambit's always easily should always be in someone's top 10 of G.I. Joe issues.
just because it showcases everybody. It shows teamwork. It's got a bit of the Die Hard feel to it, of like you're locked in one building. There's a ticking clock. There's people up top that can't see it. Can't see what's happening down below. You're keeping a secret from someone.
They're trying to keep it secret.
Yeah. That issue is so good. And yes,
so many great cross sections of the pit.
Yep. His slow burn to not use up all the oxygen in the room is such a great move. And then he disappears.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. Yeah. And I was looking in issue, I want to say it's 8, where I'm like, oh, it's probably Flash. No, it's Grand Slam.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, in issue 6, there's a computer printout of who's going on this mission, and it says Grand Slam, but later in the issue, it's actually Flash, and they call him Flash. He has his laser rifle. He has all this, so he gets no love. He's the Rodney Dangerfield of G.I. Joe's for sure.
Grant, and for listeners, I mean, you probably most know this, but almost all of them, except for really Snake Eyes, they almost all reuse the same pieces. And so Grand Slam is literally just a Flash with Grunt's head, that Michael Ironside looking Grunt head. And do they have the same boots? Let me look. Yeah, it looks like they have the same boots. The only difference is different paint job. His
boots are black, and his gloves are black. Yeah. Later, when he came with jump set, they gave him the all silver pads,
and that all silver look is good.
It's great.
Pops. That really, I'm glad. I like that they have the red first though, because that pops against. Not to veer this off into a Grand Slam conversation, but just it works for Flash too. That red, the red on the green pops for like I'm part of the team, whatever. But then you give them when with Grand Slam they give them the silver. That makes it like I'm special edition Grand Slam,
Yep.
But Flash never got it.
No, Flash not. And like you said, with his name being a major DC superhero, you're not going to get a lot of.
Yeah. So from what I was able to read is that the Superpowers line is what killed his copyright. Because there wasn't any Flash. The last, I believe, the previous Flash action figure would have been in Mego, 77, 76 or something like that. So it was open for them to use when they did G.I. Joe, but then 2 years later, DC starting up Superpowers, and they're going to win that copyright argument.
Yeah.
And it's funny though that they both have red. Now Flash falls into that category for me with it's Flash and Zap. I thought there was one other one in my head where you like I always used to get him confused because Zap sounds like he could be the Laser Trooper too.
A laser, yeah.
But he's the bazooka guy, so it's like the name is what he does, but it's also not super unique of what anyone on the team can do. Yeah, you could easily go Zap's the laser guy, right? Yeah, the guy that zaps things.
Yeah, what a Zap? Maybe Short Fuse.
Oh yeah, Short Fuse. Well, Short Fuse, he was the
Mortar Soldier.
Yeah, Mortar Soldier. I guess that works for him. But he was Short Fuse. I've always thought like he should have been. That feels like a bomb disposal, right? Yeah. I mean, they're all great names, but it's when in that early one, you need to hit the broad strokes. It's like, man, you save Short Fuse for like a second or third of your line, because then that's your bomb. You know what I mean? It's your bomb disposal guy.
Yeah.
And your mortar guy instead be something like I don't know. Like Big Lob. Big Lob would have been a good mortar guy name.
Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Like lobbing bombs at you. I'm Big Lob.
Right? That makes sense. But also with Flash, that Hector Garrido packaging art, even that felt more dynamic and popped more than most of the others in that original OG-13 line there.
Well,
like, holding the gun at the diagonal.
Yeah. Let's talk about that for a second. So he's hunched over, showing you his back, which is great for the toy, because he's showing you that this laser connects to the backpack of the toy. Yeah, that's so smart. And
it just lends itself to a certain dynamic
Dynamism?
I don't know what
Dynamism, I think, yeah.
maybe
I think so.
it definitely stood out to me
He
as
looks sneaky. He looks sneaky on
yes.
it.
Mhm.
Which is great because that's, I mean, your laser trooper's not going to be up front. You know what I mean? Like, well, aside from the fact that they all held lasers up front, but you're in a world of guns and rifles,
Mhm.
your laser trooper is going to be in the back doing sniper stuff. He's going to be sitting back. He's going to be sneaking up on you. So I think that
Precision.
works. Yeah, I think that works really well. He's also hiding the front chest piece too in the artwork,
Mhm.
which is cool because you see that on the figure. So this is one of the few figures where you do get to see what he looks like front and back.
Yep. And they really sold you on the equipment that he was coming with.
Yes,
for sure.
Yes, yeah, that really is you're so right there. That's a great observation. This is the feature of the equipment. This is the get this equipment guy. It's all about this. You're getting a laser pack. You're getting the goggled helmet, which is fabulous.
Mm-hmm. It's with and on the carrying case, I'm not sure what year it is, 82 or 83 probably. He's actually featured pretty prominently jumping off the Mobat too.
Oh yeah.
Later to be replaced by Hawk on all of the
literally
all of the
everything.
Artwork. Right. Not that I'm bitter. But so I've always had a soft spot for that piece of artwork too, from that carrying case. And it's awesome that it got so prominently featured on the box for the Art of Omnibus.
Oh, we just talked about that last week, and boy, you're so right, man. Yeah, like he's Grunt got more personality time for sure, when they show him grow up and go to college and all that stuff.
Yep.
But Flash is really high up there with absolutely recognizable, and Grunt recognizable because he was the icon. His image was used in so much of really.
He was on the Halloween costume.
Yeah, really recognizable icons of the brand that I couldn't tell you what his personality was.
Yeah.
I
know. All I know is that he went to college eventually. That's all I know about him.
Yeah. I mean, so in Action Force, he was a British ex-Green Jacket who was recruited alongside Recondo and Ripcord. And, this is interesting. This is fun. After Zartan begins killing corporals, the other soldiers of the camp blame the three guys, Flash, Recondo, and Ripcord, of bringing bad luck to the camp. So this must have been his introductory issue. So they quit. However, when they discover Cobra is planning to attack the camp, they return and warn everybody. So when those three guys, that's a classic storyline, right? We don't trust you, and then those three dudes saved the day. And I'm sure at the end of it, they came back and everyone was happy. And thank you for welcoming us back in, and we welcome you back in, Flash. Meanwhile, dude, you guys were jerks to us in the first place. So why would I want to? Yes, we helped stop Cobra, but why would I want to be friends with any of you? He was voiced by Frank Welker, the legend Frank Welker.
And on the cartoon, he has a flamethrower. Like,
oh yeah.
Cartoon wise, I'm mostly just those two the first two miniseries.
Mm-hmm.
That was the get off the school bus, run home and watch.
Yeah.
It was appointment viewing for sure. And he's stuck in the cave with Scarlet, Snake Eyes, and the Asp.
Yeah.
The Asp armor turns around, and then he sets him on fire with his
you're right. Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that. Yeah. Well, you know what? I'll bet you that was their way to differentiate him from lasers. Because if they just show regular lasers shooting out of his weird looking, everyone else has one gun that shoots lasers. And then he's got the specialty set gun that shoots something. So that's interesting. Plus, realistically, with a name like Flash, having him be a flamethrower guy makes more sense.
It definitely works.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was thinking Flash, like the sci-fi, like Flash Gordon
Oh,
sort of
you're
for
yes,
him,
yes.
which is probably where it comes from.
I agree with you. But if you're, but it also, if you need a flamethrower guy, Flash would be it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you have only
And
certain
that
names
first
to choose
wave
from.
didn't have a flamethrower.
No, that's no. I
Not till Blowtorch.
not till Blowtorch, and even then they probably were like, "Are we sure we want to do a flamethrower guy for children?" I
Right.
love Blowtorch, man, but like I'm sure there was some discussions around that. But
Oh,
yeah, from an
because-
animation wise, that does make sense that they'd want to differentiate him because he's carrying something different. So what's different
Yeah.
about him? Well, let's just give him a flamethrower. That makes a little, and it kind of more explain a flamethrower explains more why he has that outfit.
Yep.
Than
For sure.
I mean, I guess at the time you could think that maybe lasers, these high intensity lasers would also burn you too, or give him more protection.
Because it's experimental in the thing, so
Right.
I'm sure it was pretty dangerous anyway.
Oh, completely. Yeah, completely.
So
He also was featured in that great episode where Airborne's little brother, who had psychic powers, got kidnapped.
yeah,
That episode was awesome. Any show that you get like family members of the Joes, or you get to know deeper stuff, like was it
Psychic
Flint's? Yeah, Flint's
brother.
aunt and uncle, or Shipwreck's niece or nephew, whoever that was. Yeah,
and you got Roadblocks.
Roblox.
Aunt and uncle?
Was it aunt and uncle or grandma? Is aunt and uncle? Yeah, he ran the Red Rockets.
Rockets, yeah.
I love those episodes. So I've always really enjoyed that episode with Airborne and his little brother, his psychic little Airborne brother.
They kind of ditched his Airborne's Native American side in that, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they ever really dwelled on that much.
No.
Man, Airborne's such a great figure too. So that's the thing. Flash is a gateway figure for you to talk about other characters.
Oh yeah, because there's very little media to support him.
Yeah. See, he's from Lodi, California.
Oh
yeah, he's from Lodi, California, which is like Central California. That's what? Oh, it's the Creedence Clearwater Revival song "Lodi" is about Lodi, California, and it's a heavy wine region. There's a lot of wineries in Lodi.
Huh.
Yeah. So, no offense to anybody, I'm a quarter Italian. He's a drunk Italian from the middle of California. That's what Anthony Gambello is. I know my.
That's what we got.
Yeah.
That's what we're playing with.
Yeah, Lodi is a great
I'll
song
tell you
by
that-
CCR. But yeah, go ahead.
That the Rise of Cobra Flash
Mhm.
could easily have been another Blowtorch.
Oh yeah.
He looks more like Blowtorch to me.
Oh, he completely does. When you see him, picture contributed to yojoto.com by Philip Donnelly. When you see all of this weird bazooka looking thing, and then he looks like a Blowtorch guy. He looks like a flamethrower.
Yeah.
They give him this full face mask with the rebreather stuff going on. Yeah, he does not look like in any way, shape, or form a laser trooper. His other versions, his other more modern versions when he was Sergeant Flash, which I like that idea of calling him Sergeant Flash.
Yep.
Instead of just, calling him Anthony Flash Gambello is also fine too. But fine, give him a bump up. Make him a sergeant. That's cool too.
Yeah.
But they're pretty accurate to his look. The backpack. What's neat is the backpack was fairly identical. Like the whole thing was identical. Like that's a good figure.
I definitely went through and collected some of those. Is it the 25th anniversary figures?
Mm-hmm.
Those when they started doing the modern builds.
Yeah,
the 4-inch
that's the 25th.
builds.
Yep. He's
and
really
just-
lean.
Yeah.
Man,
I definitely.
That's right around 2008. I was in a weird transitional place in my life. I was changing jobs. I was changing careers. Changing, whatever. It's a different story. But like, I wasn't in a place to be buying GI Joes, and I regret it, man, because I really like a lot of those. And
they're great.
They're really great. Yeah, and this definitely is one of them. They're really, really great figures. The white version of him from 2005, the Anthony, the 2005 one, it feels like they were
Oh, he was. Yeah, he was more of a space figure. Yeah, they gave him a. He has. Have you ever seen that one? The
I don't
2005.
think.
He doesn't
I
look at
don't
all.
think.
Yeah, he doesn't look at all like Flash. He's actually. Well, I guess he's. I guess they're modeling. It's more of an underwater thing, I think. But he looks like he's wearing a. It was included with the reprint of GI Joe number 8.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's like
He's an astronaut.
Yeah, he looks like an astronaut, right?
Which issue is that?
It's issue number 8.
Huh.
Yeah, so it doesn't look anything like our Flash.
Nope.
But and
Not my Flash.
And you see the entire hashtag not my Flash. Body construction. The entire mold, aside from the head, was originally used to create the action pilot astronaut from 1994. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another one of, and
But I'll probably look these up on eBay after this.
Sure. And maybe it was like we want to do a Flash. We haven't sold Flash. We don't know how popular Flash will be, so let's save money, put a different head on an existing body and call it Flash and see if there's any interest. You know what I mean? He was packaged in a 3-pack.
And if Flash's one fan doesn't have it,
yeah.
then
Yeah. If Rich Borges doesn't have it, we got one. When they package them with Rock and Roll and Short Fuse. So Rock and Roll's your big seller there.
Yeah.
And then Short Fuse I think has some appeal too.
In the most recent issue of the Skybound G.I. Joe, I hear from Diana Davis, and I'm going to just take her word for it, that Flash is one of the people in the funeral scene folding up the flag.
Oh, okay.
I'll take her word for it. And I'll take any opportunity to have him represented.
I can neither confirm nor deny that, but I trust Diana Davis implicitly. She is literally works on those books. She helps consult on those books, and she knows more about G.I. Joe than I will ever know. So I will 100%.
Right?
If she says it,
I love it.
Then I love it, and I trust it 100%. That's great.
So
do you still have any of your Flash figures?
So when I first got into G.I. Joe, it was the 12-inch G.I. Joes.
Oh, wow.
Of course, there's going to be a story. So my cousin, Ralph, we would go over to my aunt's house, and he would dig out his old G.I. Joes and show them to me and play with them. And, as a kid, I'm like, oh, what are you going to do with these?
You're getting a little old to be playing with these, Ralph.
Eventually he gave them to me.
Nice.
And so second grade Rich is carrying his wooden foot locker with
sweet.
all like the World War II era Joe clothing and stuff for show and tell and stuff like that.
Oh, that's great.
So when the G.I. Joe when they were redoing G.I. Joe, I remember my aunt saying, oh, they're going to remake G.I. Joe and they're not going to be as good. Whatever. And so I'm like, all right, well, I'm all in on this. So when I got to that, when I got a little older, I started skateboarding and, kind of being too cool for school and stuff.
Uh-huh.
My nephew, I gave him all of my old G.I. Joe stuff.
That's cool.
It was like a dishwasher size box.
Wow.
Of G.I. Joe stuff that I just gifted him. And one of my favorite things about this Christmas is I got to give my nephew, got to give his son, I got him the Snake Eyes and Timber set.
Oh, yeah.
And he was full on into it. Like, he's like, do they make other animals in this line?
Awesome. Yeah.
How about a bat?
Oh,
so
amazing.
Just yesterday, I picked up Mutt in Junkyard.
I was just gonna say,
so
you gotta hook him up with a Mutt in Junkyard.
Yeah, so I sent him a picture, and I'm like, "Oh, show Calvin this because he needs to see this."
Yeah, it's a great figure. I just got mine in the mail too.
got to push it down the line.
You
really.
you do. That's so cool. I love that you gifted it to your nephew. Now, did he appreciate it at the time? Like, did he love it, or did he
I,
destroy them?
I'm pretty sure I'm his favorite uncle still to this day,
Sweet.
just for doing that.
That's pretty good.
Because, yeah, so I got that going for me.
Awesome. So
Um,
so then have you gone back and collected any of the classics?
so so I am. I'm trying to just fill out the original OG-13
Mhm.
straight arm.
Great.
So the first one I got when I got this was Flash. I have a friend, my friend. Do you know Toy Galaxy?
I know
Dan
that
Larson.
I think I know the name. Yeah.
YouTube channel, pop culture.
Oh, yeah,
It's
I've
really
seen
good.
it,
You
yeah.
should watch. You should definitely watch. So he and I went to high school together. In college, we used to cut classes and go buy Star Wars figures. And so he goes to a lot of conventions and stuff. I do not. And so I'm like, hey, if you see a Flash for a good price,
Yeah.
could you get him for me? And so not only did he get me Flash, he got me Grand Slam
Sweet.
because he thought it was Flash.
Fly. Hey man, we all make those mistakes. Absolutely.
Hey, 2 for 1.
Yeah,
2 for
absolutely.
1.
Absolutely. I've absolutely made those mistakes. Well, we should mention real quick. You're talking about growing up. You grew up in the backyard of Hasbro. You grew up in Rhode Island. Did you grow up in Jamestown?
I grew up in Middletown, which is just across a bridge. But yeah, so I work probably 15 minutes away from Hasbro and we went to college in Providence. So we would go to the factory store there when they had a factory store in
Awesome.
Pawtucket.
Tell us about that. What was that all about? What was that like?
It was a little underwhelming, not gonna
Oh.
lie. But
all
again,
reject
it's this,
broken pieces from the manufacturing line.
you know, we would go there, we would grab, because it was when what else were we picking up then? Then we had KB Toy, which is another local-ish.
It was KB.
Pittsfield,
Was
Mass.
KB? Oh, KB's Toys was from Massachusetts because we had KB in
Yep.
Chicago. I loved KB. It was the mall. It was the mall store. The Toys R Us was their
Yeah,
own
it's
store.
the mall store.
Yeah.
Yep. You go. Yeah. So we
Most of
would
my
go
Joes.
there.
Most of my Joes were probably bought from KB more than Toys R Us actually.
So on the island I am from, there was a Kmart, a Zare, and then there was a
That is there.
yeah, and what was so Douglas Drug was a good spot. They were a little more expensive,
Okay.
but I got my Cobra Ninja there.
Oh well,
So,
Rich.
Storm Shadow.
Drugs are always more expensive, especially on islands. So let's be
Yeah,
fair.
so-
what was the corporate store? Was that open to anyone, or did you have to know someone that worked there?
Originally it was a public. It felt like a kind of a backdoor sort of situation where you go in, but no, for a time anyway, the public could go in there.
Yeah, and did they carry everything at normal prices, or was it like broken, rejected, or you know what I mean, like off? You know, maybe the printing
they
was
just
off.
had nothing. No, it wasn't factory seconds or anything.
Yeah.
But
And it
yeah,
was
no,
just the
they just
regular
had
stuff.
standard array.
Yeah,
Yep.
and at regular prices, or did they offer you a discount?
Regular prices.
Regular prices.
They're not going to give you anything.
Yeah, okay. And I mean, back then, like so, Cabbage Patch Kids were hard to find. G.I. Joe
Yep.
wasn't hard to find. G.I. Joe was
Nope.
everywhere. So it's not like you had to go there to get find this
Right.
chase figure. Like you could find those everywhere. That really there wasn't a dearth of G.I. Joe anywhere.
No,
Interesting.
chase figures. Was that a thing back then? Back in the day?
Well, like I said, like Cabbage Patch Kids were, because they had that special thing, that unique thing about them where they had different birth dates, and then they were all different, races and things like that. So people wanted to get certain races and certain looks and certain hairstyles, and then with the birthday stuff, I know I remember my sisters were big into them, and my mom was
Yeah.
That was like her. They're older than me, so that was my mom's first experience with the stuff that soon her son would be heavily into, of like chasing down hard to find crap. Um,
Yeah.
I remember that the big thing was, at least with our area, was finding, well, one, if you could find a kid with your actual birthday, that'd be amazing. But it was like birthday month.
Yep.
So you wanted a kid, mine, would have been July or April or for May,
Yeah.
And my mom, Mary Lynn, God bless her. Listeners, if you remember, she was a guest on the show last spring. We had her on. We talked G.I. Joe, and we talked a little bit about this. They were like black market Cabbage Patch dealers. Like, they would go, they would find out when the shipments were being delivered, go to the alley of the Toys R Us, and get them off the truck. Like, that, it was wild. But you didn't have to do that with G.I. Joe.
Early in the classified line, it was kind of like that.
It was. You're right. It
was crazy.
Yeah, it was. And now we're starting to see those prices come back down to normal, and we're starting to see discount
Right.
prices at places like Ross and there's
loads.
Some, there's a bunch. I actually don't even know what it was, but there is what it is. There is one like Ross style store. I think it's on the East Coast that everyone talks about going to. Ollie's, yeah. I've never heard of Ollie's. I've never been in Ollie's. Never seen an Ollie's, but apparently Ollie's is hot with discount GI Joes.
Me and a couple. So I have a couple of Joe friends, and my friend Will was like, "Oh, I'm making an Ollie's run.
Yeah.
You're looking for anything, or we gotta tighten it,
It's good to have a network for stuff like this. We've got one
definitely.
as well, and it's good because you remind people, hey, this is dropping on this date, or I can't make it, I gotta work, can you buy me, when we order 2 for me, kind of a thing. So that's really good, and it's good that's the kind of friendship that carries forward from just being a kid about this stuff, to growing up. So did Hasbro have like did they have like a social imprint in the in the area, like, you know what I mean, like a corporate social imprint? Like, were they a big influence in, I guess, like, society in Providence, or was it just another company?
They just another company. It wasn't I mean, I love it because you don't get to hear, just like Flash, you don't get to hear about Rhode Island very much.
Right.
It's not talked about, and Hasbro's from Rhode Island, so I kind of like it.
Yeah. But it wasn't like home of G.I. Joe or anything like that.
No.
Oh man.
No.
As good as branding, as good as they are with their branding, they got to get on that.
Right.
Well,
though we did have they did a Hasbro Con, but now they just do it all online.
Yeah. I remember.
They did have a HasCon in Providence,
right,
a bunch of years back. But yeah, a little underwhelming.
Well, what kind of future would you like to see for Flash, Rich? Like
Flash?
Yeah,
I would like to see him even just as a support character, say in the comic books, with the is it Glenda for the Dragonfly copter, as she was one of the. She has his backpack and gun.
Right.
So that tells me that's they got the tooling for that. So I think there's going to be a Flash very soon, or Sergeant Flash probably.
Yeah, probably Sergeant Flash.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to see a classified Flash. I'd like for them to treat the OGs as that OG unit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, really lean into that. And, talking more of the comics, I guess, or, if they were to do a cartoon these days, really lean into it and really treat those OGs like, whereas Hawk and Scarlet, Snake Eyes, and Stalker are the only standouts, right? They're the only ones that broke free. So then that would leave, is it 9? Or, George, OG 13, when we count that, does that include the Cobras?
Clutch, Steeler, Grand Slam.
Zap, Hawk, Snake Eyes, Scarlet, Stalker. Yeah. Well, I'm not doing math live on the air, But
No,
point
no,
being,
no.
outside of
Mhm.
like those four, I want
Mhm.
all of those Joes. I would really love to see all of those Joes to just become some kind of unit, you know? Call it
Mhm.
whatever you want, but like they're this tight knit, we were there at the start unit. Um, and just have that be a thing. Whether, you know, maybe they don't support their own ongoing adventures, but like
Right.
when you see them together, give them a little nickname, you know, give, you know, the OGs or the, you know, like Night Force or, you know, Tiger Force or something like, you
Yeah.
know, Burkhart Force, whatever you want to call it. That's what I would love to see, because there's doubtful that either one of them are going to break out on their own now.
Right.
So lean into that and just group them together. And maybe they're the OGs that have now retired. Maybe, you know, they're off doing their own thing. There was rumor, or I think I remember hearing about with the GI Joe the second GI Joe movie, the one with Bruce Willis was
Retaliation.
yeah, Retaliation, where Bruce Willis showed up as Joe Colton and stuff. That the retired dudes that show up out of nowhere and just like, we're old dudes are
Yep.
going to help kill some people. They were
Yep.
supposed to be that crew. They were supposed to be
Huh.
the Clutch and the Zap and the Grand Slam and the Short Fuse. They were supposed to be those dudes, but you know, there was like apparently a last minute like, well, what if we want to do something else with those characters in the future? And my brain breaks because I'm like, you're
Mhm.
never going to do anything with those dudes. You also then have 500 other characters if you want to do quote unquote
Right.
do stuff
Right.
with.
There's no shortage.
Yes, there's no shortage. You're not burning characters by including those dudes as the original OGs. And if you want to do something new with them and obviously use younger actors,
Yeah.
then guess what? He passed the name down. Like, no one's gonna care.
Right.
Like, that would have
Yeah.
been, I guess that was originally, at least at some point, that was the plan, that those dudes were
That
supposed
was
to.
in their head. Anyway.
Yeah, and that would have been great. He shows up.
Are
and
you reading? Are you reading the Energon Duke?
I am.
Energon
Yeah, I've read the
universe
first issue. Yeah.
Okay, so at the end of that issue, they at least pulling in Rock and Roll and
Yeah.
in Stalker. Maybe they could, you know, shuffle that in,
I'm here. I'm here for it.
Get-
I'm here for
get
it.
get the rest of them in there. They're gonna need to cut open a pipe or something, right? At some point, there's got to be
Somewhere,
right? You know, or
there's
some hydraulics or
yes,
something.
there's insulation that needs to be stripped from a distance somewhere.
Right? With precision. With precision.
Call Tony Gambello. That's his commercial. Hey everybody, I'm Tony Gambello. You got some insulation that needs to be stripped out? You call me. You don't want me hanging around your house? I'll do it from across the street. I'm Tony Gambello. My friends call me the Flash. I'll take care of you. You call me 1-800 not that Flash. And I'll expose your wiring. I'll expose anything. I'm the Flash. I'll expose your wiring from a distance. Call Anthony Gambello from Lodi, California. That's it.
See?
That's what the Flash is up to.
You just nailed it.
Yeah.
Whoever's writing Duke really needs to get in on
I
this.
just gave him more character than he's had in 40 years.
Right. Oh, I mean, he did zap some snakes at the end of issue 7.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I hope you like your Cobras fried.
Sure. Yeah. Good job. Good job.
He can
Flash.
do all sorts of stuff.
Hey, listen, I'm not slagging on him. I'm just saying there's a bit of
No,
redundancy.
I get it.
There's a bit of redundancy baked in when everyone's carrying lasers.
Yep.
Rich, this has been a lot of fun, man. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah. I hope so. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on the show. Is there any parting thoughts on Anthony Gambello?
Like I said, I just hope that, you know, he doesn't have to do a lot in a comic book or in any kind of media. You know, just throw him in there and it will make me happy, because I've had to live with these little bits and pieces. You know, he basically exists like 3 panels at a time in every comic book.
Yeah, that's it.
So, and yeah, it's, you know, it's not as, by no means is he as sexy as Snake Eyes or anything, but yeah, he's always just been a favorite of mine. Ever since ever since I was,
It's the perils of
lying
being
prone
yeah,
on my mom's living room floor.
perils of being a fan of an obscure character, man.
Yep.
It's there's so much of it that lives in your head, and maybe that's I mean that might be in a way that might be a little more rewarding, because
The best space for him.
yeah, sometimes you're a fan of something, and then all of a sudden everyone's like, everyone jumps on board, and you're like, oh, I was a fan of it. I liked Flash before he got really huge.
Name
But,
3 songs.
Right, yeah. You name
Yeah.
3 songs before Flash sold out to the corporate record album. Come on, man.
Right.
I love it. I hope they do too. I really do. I think those OGs are they're a nice resource that instantly adds a historical context to any version of G.I. Joe story that you're telling. Like any version.
Exactly.
It engenders that whatever that style is of the story you're saying, it engenders the OG fans like us. It goes, oh yeah, there's a rich history, and then narrative wise, it just adds a history to it. And I think that's always welcome in almost any story I can imagine. So awesome. Rich, thank you so much for being on Joe today.
Yep. All right, thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate you. And now you know more about Flash, and Joeing is half the battle.